mate. Congratulations on the 200 games. It's been, I'd imagine, a bit of a journey for you when you consider how it all started, all those years ago when you got kicked and then found the Blues a few years later.
Yeah, thanks. No, it has. It's been a lot of fun. Early days it was pretty disappointing, and I was cursing Neil Craig for a few years there until he came back to the Carlton Footy Club. But it worked out in the end. I think if I'd hanged around at Adelaide any longer, I would have had a much shorter career. So yeah, it went well.
Just on that, Ed, can you take us through the couple of years at Box Hill and what they were like trying to get back onto an AFL list again, and what the goals for you were at that point?
Yeah, I had obviously end of 2008, met with a few of the VFL clubs to come back to Victoria, and then that was when Brendan Bolton was starting out as a coach at Box Hill, and I met with those guys, and it seemed like a great program. Went down to train, and they had, I think, Adam Uze, Luke Ablett as older players playing there, so it was a bit of a no-brainer. It was a great environment with guys like Sam Gibson, Sam Isles, and who else was there? There was a few guys having a crack, so it was really just a competitive environment, and yeah, I just kind of enrolled in RMIT in Melbourne and was living a great fun uni life, and then just going to footy and being as competitive as I could be. And after a couple of years, it panned out. I was always passionate to want to be an AFL player, and was still really disappointed that Adelaide didn't give me that chance. So that kind of drove me, and the first year at Box Hill, I didn't get drafted, and I probably didn't play that well, but I still thought I should have got drafted after 1 year, and I can remember being really disappointed and thinking about throwing it in and going overseas like other guys my age. But yeah, stuck at it one more year, and it really paid off. So yeah, couldn't thank Box Hill enough.
Did you ever think you weren't going to get that opportunity? I mean, especially the second year there when you broke your leg halfway through that season. Did you ever think that opportunity might have passed you by?
Oh, in that moment, but then afterwards I spoke with Bolts and a few other guys, and I kind of came up with a plan to start throwing my name around with coaches, and I remember I got one of the analysts to make up a little CD of highlights. I think it was a CD then, and I wrote a letter to Clarko, and I was going to hand it out to other clubs, and Hawthorn kind of gave me great confidence that they'd pick me up. So after a bit of wallowing in the hospital after surgery, I felt pretty good after a while. I still was uncertain. I didn't go till later in that rookie draft that year, but yeah, got there in the end to the Blues, a pick before the Hawks, I think.
Did you know your strengths at that point, Ed, like during those days at Box Hill and even perhaps when you enjoyed Carlton, or did you have to reassess who you sort of were as a footballer and how you could succeed?
I just think it took me time. I was in a hurry. I wanted to play that first year at Adelaide. I thought I could play AFL, and I kept pushing through injuries. I couldn't even break into the Glenelg senior side, so I was a long way off it. So it really, for me, the way it's panned out, I wasn't ready to play AFL until I was 21, turning 22, and that's when I played my first game with Carlton. So that lead in, that first 3 years from 18 till then, was just me growing into my body, putting some weight on, becoming more confident, playing against elder guys, staying away from injury, learning how to not get injured. In terms of developing a bit of power, I think I left school as a 17, 18-year-old kid, and I was lightly framed. I was always a really good runner, and I knew that because I put the work in. But yeah, I don't think I could kick a footy over 40 metres, so it just took a while for me to develop.
That first 6 weeks at Carlton, I mean, I know it's a long time ago now, but that first 6 weeks at Carlton, or your first 6 games, where I think you had 20 plus in almost every one of them, did that give you a bit of confidence that you could make that level?
Yeah. I think the first game, and we were a pretty strong side at that time as well. I had guys around me like Heath Scotland and Cade Simpson, I think, dominated on the wings, and you had Judd, Carazzo, Murphy, Gibbs, all playing really strong footy through the midfield. And then guys like myself and Mitch Robinson and a few other guys were just trying to have a crack and play our role, Dave Allard. So yeah, look, I would say it was a pretty competitive group, and it made it easy to come into. So yeah, that first little period certainly felt good, and then I think I hurt my shoulder and I found it really hard to hit that same form again that year. And ever since, you realise how difficult this game is. It's hard to be consistent, and averaging those sort of numbers is not easy.
Because of how long that journey took for you, Ed, initially, is that the sort of patience you preach to guys like Paddy Dow and Samo Petrovski and these guys? It can take time.
I do a little bit, but I don't really believe in that approach. Like, you've got to be in a hurry. I kind of think if I would have done it differently, I don't think I would have. Like, you need to learn that you got to push yourself, and you've got to try and make it as quick as you can, and you've got to be pushing coaches and working as hard as you possibly can to be a better player every day and every week, and to beat guys like me that are in front of you. But yeah, on the other token, you've then got to kind of sit back and go, hey, it doesn't happen straight away. And so yes, I do let them know that, hang on boys, it didn't work out for me until I was 22, 23. But on the same token, I want to see them pushing themselves all the time, because I feel like that's what is going to make you a good player, and basically give you a career and give yourself a job in front of the other guy.
Just back on yourself, Ed, just developed your own craft as sort of a tagger, run with role, that combative inside player. Was there anyone at the club at the start that you really learned off to play that role, and as such, are there other guys around the league that you've sort of modelled your game on in that role and developed?
Not really. I mean, I've always had guys that I've respected at the footy club that I go to for certain parts of advice. I was only speaking to Andrew Carrazzo yesterday. Guys like the way he got the most out of his career and the way he played, I really admired, and the way he trained. Chris Judd was another, in the way he prepared, and he's really good to talk to as well. I've kind of always just believed you are who you are, and you've got certain attributes. You want to try and make you want to try and have something that's a real strength that can hold up anywhere, and for me it was probably my running, and then I was able to combine a bit of physicality to it. My coaches have always been good at getting me on the edge. I've generally needed a bit of a spray or a stern word to fire up, and then I suppose it was Mick Malthouse that started to get me to tag, and that really put me in a good spot, in a good mentality to play good, strong footy. When I'm physical out on the ground, I'm generally playing my role for the team. So look, it wasn't any one player I looked at. It was just heaps of different guys, and always testing myself against the better players at training. And then I've always loved the challenge of playing on the best players. And ideally, if I could get my job done, I felt like I was contributing to the team.
You mentioned it early on, aside from your Goldie injury, and there's one other injury, I think Dusty got you in the voice box in 2017. You've been pretty durable ever since. Do the younger guys around the club look to you as sort of how to look after yourself and your body and get the most out of yourself in that aspect?
Maybe. I wouldn't say I'm the best role model. I'm a bit unconventional with, I don't really like massage, I don't really like physio, and I don't really like being touched, I suppose. Can't do that anyway, 1.5. No, look, my recovery is, I love the doing and the action parts of footy. I love training. So I've always put a premium on just being out there, and no matter if you're sore or not, you should be out there. And I suppose I hold a high standard for myself in that area, and then so I do with others, which I have to temper sometimes, and I've learnt that over the time. But yeah, look, I also love the ocean. I love the outdoors. So for me, recovery is more about doing other things than football, and that keeps you sane in the pressure environment that's AFL and keeps me going. So I try and preach a bit more of a message around other things than football.
It was around probably 5 or 6 weeks ago we had a chat in Sydney at that stage about your brother and how close he was to coming back and how excited you were about that prospect of maybe playing some footy with him later in the year. How excited are you now that that's so close to becoming a reality, and how's he got through and how's that sort of been the last week or so?
Oh yeah, it's really exciting. What's it been, 2.5 years for Charlie? So he looked great on the weekend. He's moving really well. He's now done a good 6 weeks of training with the group. I don't think he's going to quite make it for my game this weekend. I think he might be one more off, but I saw him before and he was trying to convince the coaches that he's ready to go. So, we certainly need him out there. It's an extra tall in the forward line would help Jack and Harry. So, it's exciting that we'll be playing again together. When he got drafted to the club in 2015, I thought we would have played a lot more footy. But as it's turned out, I kind of had that weird injury with the voice box, as you mentioned, and then he's had the 2.5 years out with the knee. So he looks fit, he looks great. So I'm excited for him. He nearly took a big hanger on the weekend too, and landed on his feet, which would make everyone happy.
As a family, do you? I mean, when it's someone so close to you at the same footy club as well, do you ride every bit of disappointment or excitement or anything like that, or do you have to separate yourself from that?
I do a bit. Like we're naturally pretty harsh to each other, so we kind of give each other space around the club. I think half the guys sometimes wonder if we even like each other, but. Yeah, no, really excited. Charlie was the youngest of 5 in the family. I was a bit older, so I left early to go hang out with Neil Craig and the Adelaide boys. So I missed a lot of my the years where he was going through school, seeing him kind of develop. So it's been really nice the last 5 years to hang out with him a bit more, even though we don't always seem that way. But yeah, I'm pretty excited. I think he's helped my footy a lot because he really, he's a gun and he's a great presence and energy to be around. He's got so much belief in his ability, and that hasn't gone away. And that's really helped my footy because I was someone that, always was trying to prove people wrong, and coming from basically being delisted, you feel like you're always trying to build yourself up and tell yourself that you're good enough. I feel like that's your footy career. You're continually, geez, am I good enough? What am I doing? A lot of hard work here, and we lost again. But that's the way it goes. It's always questioning your belief, and Charlie's a great person to have around when you're like that.
Speaking of Ben and Murray, Ed, any chance you could possibly win the final 5?
That's what we're going off. If you don't have hope, you've got nothing. We feel like we have that crack. Who knows what can happen. Even if we play really strong footy and we do drop 1 or 2, it's going to put us in a pretty good spot to bounce into next year. I think it's going to, for a lot of our guys that are playing strong footy at the moment, I think they'll take that and they'll go, right, I'll build off that this pre-season. I've got to make sure I'm playing that type of footy for round 1 next year. So either way, we're going to have, I feel like we're playing well, we're all playing team footy, the guys are really sure of their roles. Get Charlie back in, who knows?
And have you thought about the future and how much longer you might still have left in your legs?
Yeah, 10 years maybe. Nah, look, I'll keep playing till they kick me out, and when they do, I'll go happily. Like, they've been a fantastic club. I've said to Teague a few times, I said, mate, if you're getting sick of me, let me know, and it's all good. I've had a great time. I've got to start a family and, develop outside of footy and, meet great people in footy. So, yeah, when it ends, it'll end. At the moment, I'll just go and train as hard as I can and try and be a better player for next year and next week, and make it harder for players to kick me out of the side. But yeah, look, I'm not really too stressed about that. I'm pretty grateful for what I've had so far, and we'll see where it goes.
We hear a lot about Sam Welch and his training standards, Ed. What's his sort of what makes his training so good?
I think it's pretty basic. He goes out with purpose, and he just tries to beat people, and he works as, he's a great runner, so he's got that in his arsenal, and I truly believe I'm a bit biased towards running, but it certainly helps your longevity in football, and for Sam, that's a strength that he's got that other people don't, and so he uses it at training, and that helps him game day to outrun his opponents. And yeah, that's the whole. He's a number one pick that's come into the club and backs it up as the number one worker. It's great to have someone like that at your club.
You're still a better runner than him?
His game day stuff's beating me at the moment. It hurts me to think about it. Like, him and Cottrell are probably the guys, but I still do beat them. I've got my moments. Like, I don't want to talk about it.